What's up, everyone? Welcome to Frank Talk Episode 2. Um, just a little bit of a disclaimer I want to tell you guys up front. For those of you who are not aware of how I speak and how I deliver my message, I have a tendency of using language. So I'm just letting you know straight out, if you have kids that are watching the show, this is PG-13. You know what I mean? I'm not going to censor how I feel or, how I speak. Just so you know, okay? So just want to make you guys aware of that. The show originally was going to be based on something a little different, but during the week, I saw something that really made me think about what is going on in this country, right? Like, the fact that we are at each other's throats. I mean, this election season has been absolutely brutal on so many levels. We can find so many reasons for that too. I mean, you can look around and, we can find fault and blame basically everywhere. But we need to start understanding where this is coming from. And again, the reason this happened was because I was watching a video. It was on CNN, which is an acronym for the cable noise network, essentially. It blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. I saw this clip and I was like, man, this is the state of our country as a microcosm. Like, I was seeing essentially the state of our political affairs in miniature. And I'm going to get to the clip, but before I do, Jill, you saw the clip, right? You saw what I was talking about, correct?
Right.
All right. What stood out about that clip to you?
Well, just there was a lack of communication skills, the arguing, talking over one another. And I think anytime that somebody is trying to drive a point home and somebody opposes that point or opinion,
Right.
They are not listening to respond. They're listening to talk over you.
They're formulating their thought pattern, their next attack, right? And if you look at things from a psychological point of view, right? If you look at it from a moral psychology point of view, we as human beings go with intuition first, and then we follow that with strategic reasoning. So our intuition is not always correct, right? The things that we intuit, they're not always right. They're just our gut instincts. And a lot of times our gut instincts are wrong, right? I mean, George Bush thought he went with his gut about Iraq, and we know how that turned out.
Right. Well,
Right.
He just went in with
He
that.
just went in. It was guy. I'm going with my gut, and everybody's like, "Yeah, I love a guy that goes with his gut." Let's have a beer with this dude. And 4,000 Americans, 100,000 Iraqis later, so obviously intuition isn't everything. But unfortunately, that's the way we approach situations in life. So here's what it really boils down to. When I go outside, I see Trump signs. I see Clinton signs, right? I see all different points of view. Our neighbors are mixed with respect to who they support.
Well, I feel like it's mostly Trump who they support.
Well, maybe in this vicinity.
Right here.
But there are Clinton signs. Well, we live in an area that is, I guess, a little less. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to start getting into the partisan stuff. You know what I mean? But I have my own opinions, and there you go. There's a good example of not allowing my intuition to dominate, my reasoning and my path. So let me stop for a second. Right there, I just wanted to go off, because obviously I am not a Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination. Anyone who knows me knows that. But I'm also not blind to the shortcomings of Hillary Clinton. I'm not. I see what people dislike about her. I get it.
And I think that might differentiate, not all, but, because I don't want to clump everybody together, but I think that differentiates Clinton supporters from Trump supporters, because Trump supporters back him and fail to see any negative.
Any wrongdoing.
Any wrongdoing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I personally have never seen anything like that. It's a matter of cognitive dissonance. It's almost like it's right in front of you. But this is what it boils down to. Is it has nothing to do with the individual, his shortcomings, or his policies. It has to do with the fact that they just want to give a big middle finger to the establishment, and I get that, and we'll get into that. But again, going back to our neighbors, I mean, regardless of who supports who, if someone's breaking into my house at night, I have no doubt that these people would call the police. I have no doubt that if one of my children were out in the street hurt, they would help them. These are our neighbors, man. Just because they support Trump doesn't make them evil. Just because somebody supports Hillary doesn't make them evil. And that's the point. We're not enemies, we're neighbors. You know, we're all confused right now. We are absolutely confused. A lot of us just don't know what the hell is happening because we're being fed so much information from so many sources that we cannot make heads or tails of what's happening. There have been experiments that have shown that infants as young as 3 months, 3 months old, when shown something that is not natural, that does not exhibit a natural state, or frightening, something that's scary, something that doesn't make sense, like a car going through a wall as opposed to behind the wall. A child will stare a little bit longer at that image because innately the baby knows that there's something wrong. This is something that's built into our being. This is not taught, this is not learned, this is an evolutionary imperative that we have grown to utilize with respect to observing our reality. So when you're scared of something, you'll stare at it. And that's not just exclusive to humans, that's deer in a headlight, the old deer in the headlights, right? The deer stops, it stares at the headlights, and then gets hit by a truck. It doesn't move, freezes, and just its full attention is on the very thing that's coming right at it. That is what is happening with respect to news information in the corporate media. So you scare a baby, clap your hands. The 3-month-old will stare at it and observe the child. The baby will look to assess the danger, right? That's an innate property of humanity, of all life, not just humanity. All living things have that reaction, that sort of reaction.
They're trying to assess the situation and make sense of it.
Right, and all sentient life. Is it a coincidence that everything that comes out of the news media is based on fear? Because it is. Everything that comes out of from the TV into our brains is fear-based. It's scary, it's stressful, it's designed to drive you absolutely nuts. And when you start subjecting yourself to this sort of fear, it is a primer for you to keep checking back. You keep going back to the website. I mean, Trump supporters, I'm sure, were frantically clicking refresh once it came out that he was on tape advocating assault. They were scared out of their minds. This is the end of their candidate. So I'm sure they kept going back, clicking. As I'm sure Clinton supporters went with the email scandal. They're constantly going to WikiLeaks. I'm sure WikiLeaks is doing great business-wise with respect to all of this free publicity that they're getting. And again, it's a fear-based tactic. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that is psychologically programmed. That there are psychologists that are hired by these companies to figure out ways of getting us to look into that camera and stay there. Because the longer you watch, the more revenue is generated. The more you click, the more revenue is generated. We're taking the first steps into this larger reality. That is the way it is done. And then, once they hook you, we'll be back after this brief message. There it is. That commercial, that first commercial that you are watching, has got you hooked. Your heart rate is up. You're thinking with the fight or flight response. You are much more attentive and receptive to whatever is now being beamed into your brain. It's about the products. It's about them selling you a whole bunch of shit that you don't need. This is programming. That's what it's about. They're trying to get you to buy more shit. It has nothing to do with telling you the truth. People, they're not interested in giving you the truth. But there is an ultimate truth. And that truth does not take sides. It absolutely does not go left or right. It's in the center.
So then instead of having an argument about opposing opinions, you listen to one another, interject when needed, without being aggressive in your approach.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You can have an argument, It's conflict is a good thing. I'm not saying conflict, we have to avoid conflict, that we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't evolve. Adversity, conflict, these are the things that force evolution, force change, force awareness. You need those things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is active listening You know, when you get into a discussion with somebody, stop for a moment before you respond to take in what they're saying and empathize with what is being said. Plain and simple. Before you start to go on this, like you mentioned earlier, you said that people just wait to respond. If you're waiting to respond, you're not listening. You're going through a stage of strategic reasoning. Like you're now trying to come back with your argument. You're not listening to a word that's being said. You just want to come back and start swinging. Nothing's being learned. Nothing's being learned. Nothing's being gained. No truth is being illuminated. And that's what I'm trying to say. You know, we may never get to absolute truth, but we can get pretty close if we just shut up and listen. We are at a state of war. But it's not with Al Qaeda, it's not with ISIS, it's not with Russia, it's with ourselves, man. It's with us. It's with our neighbors. It's with the person in the mirror. We're all so conflicted, man. We don't know what's coming or what's going. So let me show you this clip real quick. And you guys tell me what you think.
I have received a threat on Twitter. David French talked about receiving more than just threats online. He talked about threats of physical harm to his family. I will never say, I don't care what side of the ideological spectrum you're on, I will never say that someone would make something up like that. He's talking about kids who are also at risk because he has a black child. Tara Setmeyer has talked about having to be escorted out of here. We've seen it. Escorted out of here by security every night because of the volumes of threats she gets from Trump supporters. That doesn't mean you, of course, Corey, or anyone affiliated with the campaign.
And there it is. So look at his face, okay? Look at his face. Is that a man who is listening to anyone right now? Did he hear what she said? Did he even comprehend a single word that came out of her mouth? He's indignant. He's got this self-righteous indignance that is so palpable and so visible. It's done. This discussion ended before it started. He's not listening at this point. It's over. Continue watching. Look who's seated where, and then witness the demolition derby. Because that's basically what this is. Pay attention to your emotions as you watch this.
What I'm telling
That's
you,
what he did.
yes, he absolutely did.
So
that.
you'll excuse the
He
Vice President of the United States because you're such a
absolutely
hypocrite.
did that.
Oh
You're
my
such a
God.
Okay, first of all,
He
don't
said I
do it.
would
Don't
do it in high
Don't
school.
do it.
He said I would do it in high
There it
school.
is.
He did not say. He didn't. Wait, no.
Do you
Corey,
feel it yet,
here's the people
folks?
on this line.
Vice President.
He's a
Here's the
journalist.
hypocrisy right here. We're talking about Vice President. I'm going to try Vice President Biden saying what he would have done in high school. We're talking about your candidate.
He said today.
No, what I would do if I were in high school. He did not say I'm going to take him behind right now.
He did today. He said it the second time. He
Whatever.
doubled down on it.
Whatever.
There it is. Okay, so I'll spare you guys the rest. There's the truth. You're seeing it. You're seeing the truth. It's about fear. It's about anger. It's about confusion. It's about keeping you hooked. Right? You keep coming back. You get further entrenched in your side. You fight with your neighbors, your friends, the people that are there to support you, the real American people. Us! We're at each other's throats right now. When is it going to end? Pay attention. Pay attention, dude. This, right now, is not news. It's not. It's there to scare the shit out of you. And it's working. And they're making tons of money on you. Absolutely. What are you going to do about it?